to this conversation, Polygon.com. Polygon is where the ravenous pop culture obsessives come to discover, understand, and really enjoy the next big thing. The distinction between games, movies, TV is blurring more than ever. I know Brian agrees, and Polygon helps audiences navigate the complicated and really rapidly changing world of modern entertainment. Vox Media also has some podcast network driven by our 13 editorial brands, an award-winning branded content studio called Vox Creative, a growing number of entertainment opportunities through Vox Media Studios. You may have seen some programming called Vox Explained on Netflix. In fact, one of our first episodes from season 1 of Explained covered the world of esports and gaming, which is a great segue to our conversation with Brian. So let's get into it. First, Brian, tell us about what you do as the VP of Global Sponsorships and Consumer Marketing at MasterCard.
Yeah, so I oversee MasterCard's entertainment sponsorships on a global level. So help set the company's strategy as it pertains to all those passion points you mentioned, and then I'm lucky that I then get to work with all of our regional leads and country leads across the world and help them, take esports and gaming and apply it on a local level. So it's been really exciting, and I've spent I'd probably say the past 4 years now working on this.
Yeah, that's actually something I wanted to hit on quick up here. I know you number of years honing your craft and sponsorship marketing at really more consumer packaged goods brands like Mars and Cadbury, Dr. Pepper. Brian, what would you say are some of the maybe differences and similarities between financial services and CPG?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is there really isn't any. We all three categories. I worked in confection, I worked in financial services now, and then soda and beverage, and all of them are highly competitive. Strong market leader, a lot of challenger brands that push for share, and it's I've been fortunate to work at three huge companies that are very focused on the brands, and I think as a consumer marketer, it's great to be involved in that, because working across challenger brands, really across all three categories, to see how each company's approach to it is a little bit different, but I think there's so much that is the same. So, working across customers, distribution, consumer engagement, there's so much of that covers it. So whether it's buying a Snickers bar to a Snapple to using your MasterCard, keeping product top of mind, top of wallet, finding those engagement points is been critical across all three companies.
Interesting. It sounds like obviously the core focus on consumer there being a red thread throughout your career. Well, I'm super excited to dive into the future of gaming and esports. As I mentioned to you, I'm a big gamer. eMarketer estimates that digital advertising and sponsorship revenue from organized esports competitions, excluding linear TV, will reach $250 million this year in 2021. That's a 58% increase from 2018, Brian. Meanwhile, total esports viewership is expected to grow and will likely double by 2023 as compared to where viewership was back in 2017. Clearly, esports has moved from being a subset of sports and gaming culture to what I think is really a full industry unto itself. Why do you think esports has exploded into the mainstream as it has over the last few years?
It's funny, for those who have followed esports, this has been a building segment as far back as I've been following it. So, 4 years. I think we've seen a few different versions of it. And, each year from 2016 to 2017 to 2018, each year, people in the space would say, this is the year we hit a huge tipping point. And I think that tipping point really came 2019 into 2020. So to me, it wasn't a surprise that it happened. It was just how quickly and how. So, for us, we saw an opportunity early on. We were the first global sponsor of Riot Games, but yet we saw a lot of hesitation around large brands really investing in the space as a whole. And I think 2019, seeing that tipping point, and then you hit 2020 2020 when we got hit with the pandemic and a lot of sports going on pause. So companies had sponsorship dollars, activation dollars, media dollars that needed to be spent. So, gaming and esports was, as an industry, fortunate enough to not really go on such a pause and hiatus as a result of the pandemic compared to, a lot of other traditional sports. So it made it easier for companies and brands to test, to learn, to hop in. So seeing those stats isn't surprising, and hopefully we'll continue to see those rates rise over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, well, certainly industry expectations, suggest that we'll see hockey stick growth, continued in esports and gaming generally. And, I think as you noted, the need for brands to have flexibility from media partners, during the pandemic allowed for some of that investment to be shifted into different places. So tell me, Brian, like I know sometimes, there's conflation between video games and gamers and esports. Like, how do you differentiate between gamers and esports?
Yeah, it's funny. I get this question pretty much every day. We, in a very simple way, try to break it down to our colleagues, our customers, our partners, and saying, listen, esports is the professional environment. It's Major League Baseball. It's the NBA. It's PGA golf, right? It's that world where the best players in that sport compete, and there's structure, teams, player unions, all of that, right? Esports is no different in following that path. Gaming to me is like, playing pickup soccer on Saturday morning. It's the entertainment aspect of it. It's that piece that, people enjoy and play as a whole. And I think when you start to separate those two and lay it out, I think people who don't understand that I've worked with really comprehend that so much easier when trying to think, esports as this nebulous big idea. It's actually very easy when you kind of think of it as just that professional world where, the best of the world get to, play in a competitive setting.
Yeah, I think that analog of esports to actual professional physical sports is the right one. And that was the light bulb for me too a few years ago when I was trying to wrap my head around the differentiation between video gamers, and esports. And you're right, esports today very much mimics, professional sports. There's tournaments, there's, March Madness style, packets, there's different teams, and all those sponsorship opportunities that kinds of marketers like yourself have really sort of evolved over the last couple of years. You mentioned Riot. Back in 2018, obviously, Brian, MasterCard became the first global sponsor of League of Legends, in a multi-year partnership with Riot Games, which you noted earlier. Currently, I want to say there are over 800 players on more than 100 professional League of Legends esports teams. They compete regionally across the world. Teams earn championship points, similar to, as you noted, sort of professional sports leagues as well. So they can accrue points throughout the season. And then obviously in League of Legends, there's sort of two major international competitions, right? The mid-season invitational, typically, in the World Championship. Yep. For those not familiar, tell us a little bit about League of Legends, and are you a player?
So I do play. I could say that I did not play before we forged our partnership with Riot Games back in 2018. So for those who don't know, League of Legends, it's a MOBA game, multi-online battle arena, which essentially pits two teams, 5 versus 5, in a style of play that I like to say is almost like capture the flag. You have a red team and a blue team. You have to try to take over the other team's base, and doing so, there are a variety of in-game obstacles, challenges that each team wants to try to achieve on their way to winning that game. As it relates to did I play, why do I play? When we made the decision as a company to invest in gaming and esports, and specifically Riot Games at the time, I was quick to learn through a couple of colleagues who were in the community that League of Legends and all games, all esports have a community dynamic, no different than music or European football or the NBA and basketball, whatever it is. And if I wanted our company to be successful, to both drive our brand, to drive our business, I found it critical that not just myself, but everyone on our team, including my manager at the time, to at least try it, to understand what happens, what's the flows of the game, and then from there get into the community. And I think our team has done just an exceptional job at understanding the dynamics of League of Legends from the inside out. And it's helped our group become better marketers for our brand. It's helped us become better consultants for our customers in order to help them better leverage our partnerships to help drive their business, to help drive our business. So it became important. And over time, I felt that our team as a whole have gleaned a lot of different unique insights, since we were so connected to the community as a whole, to help us create progressive and unique engagement opportunities over the past 3 years or so.
Yeah, I love that. I know you've talked in the past, Brian, about the importance of a marketer being a practitioner, right? So I'm not surprised to hear that you play. It's exciting to hear that, you've got your team playing as well. I would imagine when you put yourself in the shoes of, an esports player, that experience for you makes it a little bit more tangible from a consumer perspective, right? Maybe tell us a little bit about that, right? Like, what sort of insights did you glean? Was it different ways that you might be able to incorporate the MasterCard brand through the game experience? Was it the user experience itself that was really interesting to you and insightful as you thought about how MasterCard can really be authentic with consumers? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think I'll take a brand example and then a business example. So when we launched our partnership, we had vision of, creating MasterCard card products with our banking partners. And, from the outside looking in, it sounds easy. And of course, why would you not do that? But once we got into the partnership and seeing the outpouring of support by the community and Reddit threads specifically asking how soon are they going to see a MasterCard credit card in country X that allowed people to drive to drive the opportunity to earn points that can then be converted to in-game currency all over the world, was fascinating. And it was, as a marketer, it's you can't ask for that type of consumer pull. It was incredible, So when we were so worried about introducing our brand to the space as a financial services company to a community and a demographic that, generally speaking, doesn't have high sentiment on the banking system as a whole, to see that pull through was incredible. And it helped us on our sell-in to customers, because to be able to show that consumers truly want this made those conversations a lot easier.
Yeah, I love that example. And I think obviously MasterCard is effectively a technology organization, right? That obviously provides financial services, and, the rise of sort of e-commerce and, the ability to pay digitally is obviously, really impactful for a brand like MasterCard to play a role there. So exciting to hear the ways in which, some of your own experiences of playing the game has led to those consumer insights. Obviously, MasterCard isn't new to these types of partnerships, Brian. Obviously, the brand's a big partner of Major League Baseball, the PGA Tour. Tell us how the partnership with Riot Games and League of Legends came about. There's obviously lots of other games. There's other game makers. Like, why Riot? Why League of Legends?
Yep. So we started this journey actually back in 2016. So sitting on the global team, we started to look at I should say this first. We always look at what's new, what's next. as a technology company, it's important for us to always be thinking about, 2 years out, 3 years out, where is the consumer sentiment starting to trend and go towards. So we saw this rise it was actually in conferences such as this, esports being talked about quite a bit. And so our team started to dig into, esports as a whole. From a global perspective at the time, there really was only one game. Overwatch was yet to launch. They were on the precipice, so as a company that operates in over 200 countries worldwide, as we started to think about what gaming meant for MasterCard, we started to think about what games have the largest scale. And, as you said, I think it's, 13 leagues, 800 players, dozens of teams all over the world. We felt that Riot Games offered a global infrastructure that allowed us over time to grow with, to truly build with, evolve with, and we felt that the gaming side was so strong. At the time, League of Legends had been around 6-7 years, and that concern of game burnout and turnover, always exists, especially when you make a long-term investment. But for us, we felt incredibly confident that League of Legends was going to be around, as well as be a top game for years to come. And those types of conversations really helped us kick off what a partnership could look like, and how would that ultimately look like for companies such as ours.
I mean, I think it's fair to say here, a couple of years later, right, that the partnership's proven successful for you. So congrats there. In the summer of 2020, I noted MasterCard announced that the brand would be the official payment partner of the Northern League of Legends Championship for the 2020 season. As I understand it, that deal effectively expanded MasterCard's presence within League of Legends from being not just a global events sponsor, but also directly sponsoring the championship series. So I'm curious, as part of the announcement, MasterCard noted that they'll leverage rewards through a priceless play of the match incentive program. First of all, what does that official payment partner status mean for you as a brand? And then practically speaking, can you tell us a little bit more about the priceless play of the match program and how that works?
Yeah, so whether it's that league, LCS, CBLOL, variety of leagues, it allowed our brand to take League of Legends from a global scale, from marquee events such as Worlds, mid-season invitation, and localize it. So it allowed us that opportunity in key markets to have this always-on dialogue with the community as a whole. So not just connecting at a large scale around these peak moments of the year, but do so all year round. And while we do engage with the League of Legends community specifically all year, to be able to do so in key markets has been a huge success for us. So that's why we jumped into that. Player of the match, it's something that we started a few years back on a global level, and then started to localize that also. And we've seen, in esports and gaming as a whole, no different than traditional sports, fans have this connection with players as a whole. And I think gaming and esports specifically, takes a unique trend on that, because a lot of these pros, when they're not playing in their match, are on Twitch streaming, YouTube, right? They're engaging with fans in different ways. So we said, hey, how can we take this engagement and do something unique? So we created Player of the Match in North America. It cuts across the Nordics as well, where it gives fans specifically the opportunity to vote for who they think the best player of the match during the weekend's activities are. They go on to social media, they use a hashtag. For us, it was important because it connects that, it drives tune in across the weekend's events as a whole. We use assets across our broadcast partnerships to help promote, drive that. And then, which is kind of fun, which we didn't really think much of it in the beginning, but Each week we pick about, 15, 20 fans, and we send them a figurine of the player that they voted for. And over the past, 18 months, it's just become this viral sensation that people love having this tangible, touchable product that kind of reminds them of that. So, it's driven huge social engagement across the whole year, the whole season.
Amazing. Yeah, it's great to see how Priceless can play a role there as obviously one of the sort of core brand platforms at MasterCard. You hit on a couple of things there that I thought were interesting. It sounds like effectively there's no off season almost, right? I mean, in some of the professional, more physical, sort of tangible leagues like the NFL, there's an off season. MLB has an off season, but in esports, because these folks are playing all the time, there's almost no off season, and there's a great opportunity to sort of engage with your customers in connection with that, throughout the year. And obviously the global component, is a really big piece as you think about some of the other sort of big global sports, F1, football, AKA soccer, that sort of global virality is really exciting as it relates to the future of esports. It's fun to see how MasterCard's expanded the partnership and how that can manifest itself. I noticed late last year, as part of the League of Legends World Championships in Shanghai, MasterCard thanked the fans of League of Legends to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the World Championships. I think the brand executed a number of digital priceless experiences for fans, a limited release of in-game digital points, a whole sort of set of interesting, opportunities available on priceless.com. Tell us how the fans responded to those experiences late last year, and maybe a little bit more about the role that Priceless played in that piece.
Yeah, it was incredible. When you look at traditional sports now, whether it's, soccer, American football, baseball, golf, these sports have been around for decades, if not hundreds of years, right? Or around 100 years. When you look at League of Legends, it's been around now year 11. So, people who are fans now were there from season one, and they feel that they had a role in helping create and make League of Legends what it was. So 2020 was the 10-year anniversary, and we wanted to kind of flip the spotlight around a bit and do, as you said, thank the fans for all they've done over the past 10 years to help make the game League of Legends, the esport League of Legends, into what it is. So during the World's Finals, we did a 24-hour Follow the Sun experience giveaway, really trying to bring fans closer to the teams, the players they love. So we did just about 15 experiences with different pros from all 5 key territories. We partnered with Cloak, which is an esports streetwear brand, did a League of Legends 10-year capsule collection, which sold out in an hour or two. So, amazing. The ability to look at League of Legends for us the way that other companies and brands do around the NBA and Champions League and, Major League Baseball, we looked at some of those key successes and said, hey, no one's really doing this on a scale around League of Legends and esports as a whole. And, given our products are used as a vehicle to help people transact, we did so in a way that was meaningful for the fans. On the merchandise piece, we priced everything at $10 $10. So no matter what it was, hoodie, tote bag, puzzle, to celebrate those 10 years, fans were pumped on it, and I think you can always use eBay as a tracker of, success on those types of things. And for those first few weeks afterwards, many items were being sold on eBay for, 2, 3, 4x.
Amazing. I love it. As we start to wind down our time here, I want to maybe turn our attention toward the future a little bit more. I'm curious, as we think about this analog between esports and professional physical sports, the opportunity for brands to sponsor teams or to work with individual players specifically, do you any shifts, Brian, or any sort of trends in that space of brands partnering with the team or partnering with individual players more so? Where do you see that going in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think that space is on a good path. Where when you look at where they were, teams, players across all sports, even just 2 years ago, right, to where they are. Teams would have 3 or 4 sponsors in 2018. Now they have, half a dozen, 10 plus partners, and you're talking about blue chips, right, from Monster to BMW, Mercedes, Red Bull, right? So you're talking about big brands, not just brands that are endemic in the space. So I think you're going to continue to see more of that. I think you'll also see a lot more companies getting into like Twitch, and testing and learning in spaces that allow them to not have to make a long-term investment, but still allow them to sort of find how to be successful in that space. And I think, those are 2 areas we've seen a huge rise over the past 18 months, and wouldn't be surprised if we can continue to see the same type of growth rates as you look, over the next 2 years.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about mobile. I mean, my personal opinion is and hopefully that's substantiated by data and facts. But I feel like esports will likely be powered by mobile. But I think certainly mobile presents fewer barriers to entry, even more gamers and fans to pour in. The proliferation of accessibility to the internet around the globe, it will only continue to increase. How do you think of that proliferation of esports through mobile devices? And maybe more importantly, what do you think those opportunities will be for brands like MasterCard as mobile becomes even more important in esports and gaming?
I think it's massive. I think when you look at a chart of the world and where gaming sees opportunities to grow, and I refer to both, esports and gaming here. You look at Africa, you look at Latin America, you look at, parts of Asia, infrastructure such as gaming consoles, PCs might be tough to get access to. Wi-Fi might be a challenge. So the idea of mobile gaming being conduit to help the gaming community grow as a whole on a global level is incredible. And I think it was a brand innovators session we had some time back where I had someone come on talk from Africa. It was incredible to hear, those esport leaders looking at how, things like mobile will help drive growth across the continent as a whole. So, mobile gaming and esports, I think, is a huge opportunity. And I think the challenge on the publishers is how do you get the users to take it serious in the same way they will consoles and PCs. So, and I don't have any research to back this up, just from my own experience, mobile feels a lot easier to just parachute in, spend some time, and then kind of go back to other things. So how do brands create that, or how do publishers create that stickiness with it so that, you see that same type of, continued use?
Yeah, I saw a stat this morning that there's been a 460% growth in mobile media consumption on phones and handheld devices in the last 10 years. It's a massive increase in time spent. And I think to your point about the challenge ahead for publishers is thinking through that mobile infrastructure in maybe deeper ways. A number of industries, Brian, last year, obviously, as part of the pandemic, such as online retailers, were propelled forward, right? I mean, I think the video game industry probably also saw growth generally in 2020. According to data collected by the NPD Group, video game spending rose 22% last year from 19, hitting almost $45 billion. Most folks agree that trends like online shopping that accelerated last year during the pandemic will continue. Fair to say that you expect the same will hold true for esports and gaming coming out of the pandemic?
Yes. I mean, I think, look, coming out of the pandemic means a lot of different things to a lot of different people all over the world. So, in the US, it feels like we're in a good place as, states and parts of the US continue to open. But when you look outside of the US, across Latin America, parts of Asia, they are still very much inside the pandemic in a really tough way. So, seeing how gaming as a whole, had a huge growth over the last year, I imagine you'll see that same growth continue at least through 2022. And I think by then, hopefully the world as a whole will be a little bit more like it was back in 2019. And, hopefully gaming and esports as a whole was able to make enough of a connection that as people start to then live their lives outside again, gaming and esports still continues to be a part of that.
Any other big sort of trends or call outs, in esports or gaming that you see that's right around the corner? Is it e-commerce or something else?
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about the big trends, and I feel pretty confident that you're going to continue to see big companies invest now, whether it's through game publishers, esports, media platform. I think every company will need to figure out what's the right path for them. And as actually, couldn't agree more with Sarah in the last session talking about, I think someone asked her what's her point of view on, how can companies get into that, space. And I always tell everyone, like, the most important thing is be who you are, but just figure figure out what is it you want to achieve. And, Sarah hit it on the head. I don't think it's about trends and trying to get into the next big thing, whether, it's more about how can companies build a long-term platform that esports and gaming becomes a core piece of what they do.
Yeah, I love to hear, some of your thoughts there on where you think the future's headed. And, I think that your points about, brand authenticity and really, being sort of incremental, additive to the consumer experience or really sort of stand out, sort of comments throughout our discussion. Hey, David, how are you?
I don't want to interrupt. I know we got a couple more minutes. I didn't know if you had a closing question or two before we roll into the next session. Don't let me cut you off.
Yeah, my last question is really how you think about, partners like Vox Media, on the sort of digital publishing side and sort of how they fit into the ecosystem, Brian. Obviously, some of the big league sponsorships, whether it's NFL or NHL or League of Legends, right? Obviously, there's a commitment that a brand makes to that league, that sort of, team. I'm curious how you think about, digital publishers in this space, social and otherwise, playing a role to help brands like MasterCard amplify their engagement.
Look, I don't want to give away all my secrets, but I'll say this. When you look at traditional sports, right, whether it's Major League Baseball, people, brands are invested beyond just the broadcast and the games themselves, whether it's Sports Illustrated, ESPN, Bleacher Report, right? Whatever it is, they're connecting with consumers of that sport and how they consume that sport in a variety of ways. And it's been fascinating to us. And I think we've been a benefit from it, that we've looked into a lot of these, publishers that are, secondary content contributors to the community. And it's worked out really well for us because now, again, to everyone who's on, here's a trend for you, right? So, we've found a lot of success because a lot of companies aren't investing there. So, share of mind, share of voice is incredibly high for us because there's not a lot of competition in those spaces. Where if you go on ESPN, right, every day there's a ton of brands on there. But if you go to, UG.gg or Mobile Fire, right, or whatever it is, Vox, right, those types of publishers offer incredible content and connecting with the community outside of their core engagement behavior. So it allows your brand to stand out. And, we found a lot of success for it. Now, that might not be the right path for everyone, but for us who just, made a decision to go deep around the League of Legends community as a whole, it allows us to stay relevant, topical, and engaged with the community in a variety of different spots. So,
giving away some secrets, and interesting to
for
hear
those who actually stayed for the full 30 minutes.
That's right, and finding that white space, right, Brian, is obviously really, really interesting and insightful as well. So thanks for that.
There was I don't know, David, if we have 1 minute or so. There was a question about research. I just wanted to kind of touch upon
Yeah,
that.
go for it. We got 2 more minutes. So yeah.
Fantastic. So it just asked how much research did we do in the space, you know, and what type of let's see, we notice any age gaming consumers and advice we would give. So we did a ton of research. We researched for probably 2 years. Now, again, we had the luxury of that. Not every brand does. But I think the point is we spent a ton of time learning the space, learning all the different paths of entry for big companies, whether it's, you know, publishers, esports teams, media platforms. You know, we spent a ton of time researching all of that, trying to then understand what was important for MasterCard, what objectives we were trying to hit, you know, and invested quite a bit into that, not just from a financial perspective, but, you know, people and time. And I think it's really important because whether it's esports, whether it's travel, whether it's retail, right? Anytime you want to get into a new space, if you want to be able to build longevity behind that, you know, having research to help support that will only help.
Absolutely. Love it.
I didn't see any other questions. So
any particular resources you direct people to if they're looking to make their first foray?
You know, our agency partner, Octagon, has done an exceptional job for us, or Octagon, Rogers and Cowan. You know, we've worked across a variety of brands. You